Okay. So first off, regular expressions are a super useful thing, and there's now an assignment associated with them. They don't necessarily crop up yet, although if you do them, you'll find that you can that an exercise in the Arraylist module becomes a lot easier, as does the assignment once we get the trees will become a whole lot easier. So Arraylists are really, really, really useful, or rather regular expressions are really, really, really useful. And they're pretty much a feature that's available in every single language. So if you click on this, you'll see that it's worth 0 points, or rather that it's out of 0 points. But you can get 15 out of 0 points, which means 15 points added on top of basically the total points you'll have. But I guarantee that the knowledge you're going to get out of this and the time you're going to save is worth any amount more, is worth more than the amount of points that you'd ever get from this. Yes, regexer.com. I actually recommend that in the PDF, which I'll just go ahead and open here, right? So if you're having trouble, see this link. It links to regexer.com, which teaches you how to use regular expressions. Regular expressions won't be found in your textbook. They, but basically learn them. You can learn them online. It takes about 2 hours to really get a good grasp of them. One student sent to me privately that they learned them last semester and they are great. So you're going to be, for the most part, for this first part, you'll be using words.txt, which is a full dictionary file. So basically a spell checking dictionary that you would find in your computer. So you'll want to answer these questions as best as you can. You'll find that basically, depending on how you do it, you might get different answers than another student. That's okay. What I care about is you creating the regular expressions. All right. So with that being said, I will give you a chance to check in because I suddenly realize I have a toddler next to me. So you are supposed to mark yourself present for the labs, yes, but don't worry about it. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Wonders of parenting means that you sometimes have to, you know, potty train. So, all right. So with that being said, somebody says that they were absent. If you're marked absent accidentally, just contact your TA, tell them to mark you present if you were there. Attendance doesn't really matter so much in terms of grade, or rather being marked for attendance. We're just supposed to do it for contact tracing purposes. Okay, so that is available to you. Also, let me go ahead and grab the files for Fox and Rabbit and give you some pointers if you are having some issues before we I let you guys split up. So let's go ahead and take these, bring them out, bring them to seriously, what's going on today? Okay. Go ahead and close this. Boom. Yes. Screen sharing stopped because I closed the window. I understand that. I understand that very well. Drop an SRC. I will share my screen very shortly. Boom, boom. Okay. Share. There we go. Okay, so there is my screen. Here is the here's the SRC folder. Here is Rabbit, right? Which is what you're supposed to be working on. So hopefully you got to a good point yesterday, but in case you didn't, let me give you some advice. So first off, again, if you're still having trouble with the kiting strategy, then perhaps would be a good time to try and use the taking advantage of the line of sight strategy. I'm going to put on do not disturb. Great. So how do we do that? Well, first things first. By default, it's actually a very good strategy to just stay put. By default. Next. The next thing we want to do is for int I is less than model dot min direction. Oh, sorry, model equal min direction, getting ahead of myself there. I is less than or equal to model dot max direction. And again, if you're wondering what the heck is going on with that less than or equal to sign, that is my font. It is called Fira Code. There's a lot of different fonts that that exploit ligatures in that are built into fonts. So ligatures are basically where you have where you have the words IF together and they kind of just join together into one thing, into like one solid letter. So less than or equal to here again is just less than and equal to, and it just renders it. Some people find that the most annoying thing ever. Some people love it. So I happen to be in the latter camp. So for int I, so what we're going to do is now we are going through all the directions and we are going to say, let's look in this direction, right? We're starting in the north and we're looking in all directions clockwise, starting from north and going all the way through to northwest. If we look around and what we see is the fox, then what I'm going to do is, this is kind of where I wanted you to get, which is if model, so if, actually I'm just not even going to bother doing an if statement. I'm just going to return model dot turn I, the direction I see the fox in, and 4, which is directly away from the fox. Make sense? That is directly away from the fox. Okay. So let's go ahead and run this sucker. So let's go to rabbit hunt. And let's go ahead and, right, I know what I need to do. I need to stop sharing. And now let me share my whole screen. Okay, let the hunt begin, run. Okay, this is going to end very poorly for a poor little rabbit. He moves away, and now he's backed into corner and gets it. Let's run again. Backed into corner, gets it. Right? If this was like Pac-Man or something, he might stand a chance, but these are walls. And he gets it. Is that a JetBrains extension? So somebody's asking if the less than or equal to feature, is that a JetBrains extension? It just depends on whether your editor supports ligatures. Some do and some don't. For me, what you have to do, if you go into settings, go to fonts, go to font over here, what you need to do to enable that is to check enable font ligatures. A lot of different, like VS Code supports it. A lot of different things support it. Okay, so that ended very poorly because we're moving directly away, which means we're always stuck in the line of sight of that bloody fox. But now let's try just something very different. Okay, rather than going directly away. Let's go directly away and diagonal. And let's go ahead and run and see what happens. So run, and let's see what happens here. Oh, because I moved out of line of sight of this fox, it didn't see me. So it's facing back and forth, right? If I see it, I move essentially, if I is the relative direction, if I is forward, then I try moving back and to the left. That's what 3 is. It's back and to the left, essentially. So it actually does a really decent job, at least with this map setup. The rabbit escaped. We won this one. Let's go ahead and reset and run again. This doesn't look so good because I have nowhere to back into and I get it. Run, boom, boom, yep. And I couldn't back away and to the left into that bush. So let's go ahead and run our grader here and see what our survivability was. Because it can't be that rare. 17% survivability there. So let's experiment though. Just because we got it up doesn't necessarily mean that we're making an optimal choice. What if, say, I change that to, say, going the back and, well, actually that was back and to the right, not back and to the left, my bad. Back and to the, let's go back and to the left now, which would be 5. And we'll see that that actually increases our survivability, that pretty much doubles our survivability, which is insane. Now, why is that? That's because Fox has a built-in bias when it's trying to figure out which direction to move in, right? When it's going forward, it's going to go forward to, it's going to first go forward and try going to its right and then its left. Notice that model.turn can give us this one. And notice that this block actually gives us the final piece of the puzzle to get a really good algorithm, which is that it's got this statement that says can move, which asks if I can move in this direction, then move. Otherwise, if I can't move in that direction, otherwise I check moving in another direction and then move in that direction if I can. So between these, you can actually make a very good strategy, a very short one that exploits the line of sight of the fox. So if you've been stuck, try that. All right. Let's see. Are there any quizzes that I have today that I should just let you know that you should complete? Temple. I believe you do have a quiz. It's not to, like, I don't give pop quizzes in this class being online. I find that to be a bit silly and contrived. So your quizzes are, let's see, you do have an object-oriented programming quiz. It is due on Saturday, so take it sometime before Saturday. It's under Module 1, right? So let me just share my screen again. Right? Under Module 1, take this object-oriented programming quiz by Saturday, or by the end of that due date period. Next, be sure to watch these videos for next week on Arraylists. If you took 1050, so how many of you learned about Arraylists in 1068?
Yeah,
right?
we did.
A lot of you, right? Professor Fiore is very thorough. Love the guy. He's awesome. But you know, he was teaching them in a different manner. So what we're going to learn with Arraylists, as we can see with our playlist, is that first I'm going to go over the idea of lists and interfaces if you haven't. And then we're going to learn about generics, which is creating array lists of a specific type. In other words, it's a way of using Java to restrict array lists to only using a certain type. So array lists of integers, or array lists of strings, or lists of boxes, or whatever. The point here is that this means that you can control what goes into the array list, and you get specific ideas of what's going to be going in and what's going out. So these first 5 videos go over how to use array lists and how to use them with generics. For videos 6, 7, 8, and 9, well, actually, those 4 videos do. So the half of this is going over lists. And the other half of these is I go through and teach you how to build an array list from scratch. I basically do a slightly simplified implementation of what Java does, but it's actually pretty accurate to to how Java's array list is programmed. The first video is one of our well-produced videos, and it is a very good 3-minute overview over things like how to use generics. Now, they may look scary to begin with, but they're really not. This just simply says it's a list of specific things. So we can create a list of strings or a list of integers, and so now only strings can go into this list, and only integers can go into this list. If you have not learned array lists, don't fret, because I assume you don't know array lists. I assume this might be your first contact with that. For a lot of things like recursion, I assume that this is your first contact with that because we do get a number of transfer students and a number of students who are coming from different institutions, and that's perfectly fine. But for those of you who array lists you might be like, oh yeah, I know this already. Just remember, since this is on YouTube, you can make use of a handy feature of clicking this gear button and turning the playback speed way up if you want to. So, but in terms of total, now this may seem like a drag having to watch a lot of videos, but let's see. The first one is 6, 9 minutes, 15 minutes, 11 minutes, and that's just me going over how to use those. And then to build it, it's 7 minutes, 17, 3, and 12. Right, so very wide variety, but they're like, okay, I can watch this, I can grab a bite to eat, and then I can do something else, and then I can watch another video. These are I make it a point to make these very watchable and not be super boring. Okay, so be sure to watch these for next week. We'll be doing some standard exercises next week as well in our classes. Finally, if you have any questions over the weekend or whatever, again, reserve time for our office hours or send me an email. You use the same link to join my office hours as you do for this classroom. Okay, or send a message via Discord. All right, so please put in the chat who you would like to work with. If you because I'm going to be splitting you guys and gals all into breakout rooms. Okay, so let's go ahead and create. I need about 4 people per room, so I'm going to create rooms manually. So let's go ahead and put assign. It may take a bit of time, a couple minutes for me to do this, but that's okay. Use the time to pull up your code. So I'll be moving people in. I need to Jeffrey Canal. I'm sorry. All right. Go through. So the worst thing about this is that I can't like get somebody else to help me and I can't make it. It's very, very, okay. So Austin. And 10.
Professor Rosen, I had a
Yep.
question. So for the survivability, what's the survivability? What should we expect for like a modest like program? Like what? How much of a survivability?
80%. 80% survivability, not the grade, the survivability. That's a real. I consider that to be somewhere you can be done with.
All right.
Okay. God, there's just so many messages. Okay. And repeats them. All right. Does anybody else still in this session need to be moved with somebody? Otherwise, I'm just going to start assigning you to rooms. Hi there.
Oh, hello.
Hey, Professor. I think I did hit the assist, but I'm all good now.
I thought that was just to get you moved, so I
It
was.
was, yeah. No, we had some weird thing with like the first time Tyrell was in our quad, and then the next day in lab, I think Jovan might have moved him on accident.
Yeah.
But then he's with Ryan now too. As soon as I typed the group, he said Ryan, so I was like, oh, my bad.
He moved on. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
So does anybody here need help specifically from me?
I'm good. Does anyone?
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we're good.
I think we're good for now.